Hello, my name is Krachenfels, and I am currently a freshman at UC Davis, and my major is computer science and engineering. Today I'll be reading out my children's book titled Sylvie's Sense-sational Forest Adventure. So this is the cover page right here, and if you look you can see this is Sylvie, and these are the forest friends that she'll be meeting very soon. So Sylvie's family went camping, and Sylvie went off in search of adventure, but now she's a bit lost. Little does she know she's about to have some real adventure. So suddenly, a rabbit hops out from behind the bush, and the rabbit says, "Hello, I heard you were lost. Maybe I could lend a hand? Lend an ear, I mean." And Sylvie says, "Oh, hi, but how?" And the rabbit says, "Well, let me tell you, it all has to do with your nervous system." So the nervous system is a specialized group of cells that transmits information between your brain, spinal cord, and the rest of your body. And it's made up of small cells called neurons. Another term for neurons is nerve cells. So if you look here, this is a picture of your neuron, and of course, in reality, your neurons are a lot smaller. There are a bunch of these packed into your brain and spinal cord, and these tiny, tiny neurons use electric and chemical signals to relay information to other neurons and to the brain. So, the rabbit says, this is where my ears come in, because rabbit ears can pick up a much wider range of sound. And neurons are very helpful for passing information about sounds from my ears to the brain. In particular, a specific neuron called the auditory nerve helps do this. So you can see above that sound hits the eardrum, right here. So sound travels through the ear, and it hits the eardrum, and then the signals are taken to the inner ear, past the eardrum, and then after they reach the inner ear, they're taken to the auditory nerve back here, and the auditory nerve passes the signals to the brain. So the rabbit says, "So I might be able to hear sounds back at the campsite." But just then, a hawk lands on the branch above, and the hawk says, "I heard you were talking about hearing. Well, what about sight? Because hawks have extra sharp eyes, you know?" And the hawk tells them to look below. When light enters your eye, it hits a tissue that lines the back of your eye called the retina. And the retina converts light into electrical signals, and then a neuron called the optic nerve delivers the light-turned signals to our brains. So here's your eye, and light travels through your eye, and in the back of your eye there's the tissue, the retina, right here, and then light hits this retina, and then it gets passed to the optic nerve, and the optic nerve sends the signals to the brain. So while Sylvie and Rabbit listen for sounds to lead them back to the campsite, the hawk flies overhead to get a bird's eye view of the forest down below. Meanwhile, "Oh, I thought I smelled some new travelers. Hello." It's a bear. And the bear says, "You see, behind the nose there's this large air-filled space called the nasal cavity. And in that cavity are the tiny ends of neurons called olfactory receptors. These are pretty cool. They detect odor, in other words, smell-related chemicals, and send these signals to the brain to interpret the different smells." So if you look here, this is your nose, and the way the path of smell works is the smell enters your nose, it travels up your nose, and then behind your nose, there's kind of this big space, and in this big space are all these olfactory receptors, which are the tiny, tiny ends of neurons, and these work to transmit information about smell to your brain. So the bear asks, "Did you know that the bear's sense of smell is 2,000 times better than humans?" And this is because they have a lot more olfactory receptors located behind their noses. So that's how the bear could sniff out Sylvie and the rabbit in the first place, and the bear also offers to help them sniff out the campsite. But just then, Sylvie notices something on the branch above, and it's a butterfly. And the butterfly is a bit confused. Why is this human pointing at me? But the butterfly says, "Oh, hello, I was drinking some nectar." And Sylvie asks, "Well, does it taste good?" And then the butterfly says, "Actually, I'll tell you a secret, okay? Shh. Us butterflies, we taste with our feet." And Sylvie asks, "Your feet? You taste with your feet?" But the butterfly replies, "Indeed, we have taste receptors on our feet that send information about taste to the brain." So that's how butterfly taste works. But for you, it's a bit different. Your taste receptors are in your mouth, and they're called taste bud cells. So this is your mouth drawn out here. And actually, if you stick your tongue out in the mirror and you look around, you'll see many small circular bumps on it called papillae. And each of these contain many tiny taste bud cells. So actually, you should try this at home. Look in the mirror, stick your tongue out, and see if you can see all the tiny, tiny circular bumps called papillae. And now you'll know that in each one of these tiny circular bumps, there's a bunch of taste bud cells. And these work to transmit information about taste to the brain. So moving on, the butterfly lands on Sylvie's arm, and Sylvie says, "Whoa, that feels kind of funny, and it tickles my arm." Which brings us to the final sense, touch. So like humans, animals have skin, the layer of outer tissue that covers and protects you. So on your skin are tiny touch receptors, which are nerve cells that detect things outside, and they send these signals back inside to the brain. So the bear tells Sylvie that touch receptors can sense things like temperature, pressure, and in this case, the butterfly's feet on her arm. So the butterfly leaves her arm now, and then they're walking along, and eventually Sylvie says, "Wait, I can see the campgrounds in the distance." So in the end, Sylvie found her way back to the campsite, and it was all because of the help of her new friends. And she waved goodbye, but she promised to visit the forest again for more adventures. The end. And this is a glossary of all the terms that I used in the book here. And this is me. So thank you for listening, and I hope you enjoyed my story.